I tell you, guy, let's shift gears to the United States Open in golf. Friend of the program, we love having him on. My goodness, Steve Flesch, you are tearing it up, man. I mean, 3 tournaments in a row, those ones you just went on, including the PGA, and then last weekend in Madison. You got it going on, man. Is this as well as you've played in a long time?
It's as well as I've played this year, Thom. Thanks for having me on again, first of all. But it's fun. You know, when you get to putting well, like we talked about last week, it makes the rest of the game easier. I've been hitting it pretty well, but, you know, that Stricker guy, if we can get rid of him, everybody will be a lot better off on our tour. But, man, you know, he should be playing the PGA Tour still, like I said. But we're happy to have him. He's just a tough guy to beat right now, but my game's been in pretty good shape. So, you know, you just, like you say, I just heard you saying with the Reds, you catch the wave when you can out here. And I'm having a lot of fun watching the Reds. I stream them when I'm on the road. You know, I got a lot of downtime in the evening, so I stream Bally Sports and, you know, watch all their games, but it helps pass the days. But it's certainly fun to play well. It makes you know, makes the game more fun.
Well, we're really happy for you, and we're really excited how well you're playing and continuing on. When are you going back on the road again? I know you're home right now. When are you heading back out? Where are you going?
Go back out to the Dick's Sporting Goods Open next week up in New York. It's in a little town called Endicott, where we used to play years ago, the BC Open, it was called, one of the first events, the old BC comic strip. Remember that in the paper, Broome County. Yep. We play there. And then go from there to our U.S. Senior Open in Wisconsin, in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, which is in the middle of absolutely nowhere. But it's 2 hours from, I think, Madison, Milwaukee, and Green Bay in the center of the state. So I don't know how we're getting there, but that's where we're having our U.S. Senior Open.
Well, it's an easy drive up there. I mean, come on. I've driven to Wisconsin 1,000 times. That's an easy ride. A little on the boring side, but it's an easy ride. And once you get through Chicago, you're gold. All right. A number of interesting things going on right now, including, of course, the U.S. Open. But as it pertains to the U.S. Open itself, I made reference earlier. The L.A. Country Club, you know, there's kind of a mystery about this whole thing, right? Because there's never been a U.S. Open on this course. They haven't had a PGA Tour event since I think it was 1940. There have been some certain things there, so a couple of guys have played it, but it's guys that have been around for a while. What are your thoughts on this LA Country Club? What are you hearing about it?
Well, I know about as much about this new one as you do. I played it, I want to say 10 years ago before they did the renovation. I mean, it's in a phenomenal piece of land. I mean, it's literally right in the heart of LA. Yep. By Century City. I do know they don't like celebrities there, no celebrity members. It's not like Bel Air where it's a who's who when you walk into the clubhouse of who's playing that day. But LA Country Club, Gil Hanse did the renovation, who I worked with when I was with Fox Sports doing the U.S. Open events. And Gil's fantastically talented man. He's really got a knack for bringing back what the intention of the original designer wanted, but and parlaying that into how far the modern golf ball goes. You know, none of these courses were designed for the ball that we play today. They were designed for a good drive being 220 yards. So now with these monsters that, you know, hit it a mile, he's great at incorporating the original intent of the designer with, you know, the energy and the power of these new guys. So it looks phenomenal on television. There's a lot of long grass out there, which, you know, I'm not the straightest driver of the ball. That stuff gives me the willies, but it's going to be interesting. If it stays firm and fast, like I guess the forecast is not really calling for any rain, it's going to be an exciting Open. But it's one of those events where, you know, it's not like watching Oakmont or Brookline or some of these traditional venues, Wingfoot, where you know what you're going to get. All these players, this is kind of a new deal for them because they've never played LACC in its modern state. So it looks really cool. There's two or three par threes that are over 240 yards, which is one of them's 290. I mean, I think that's asinine personally, but you know, I've seen the holes on TV and they say it's 290, and I'm like, well, where's the miss? You know, like one of the things that makes courses great is, yeah, okay, you got a 290 par three, but there's some place to miss the shot because, you know, you're going to get 25, 30% of the field maybe that hit the green. That might be high from that far. Not only because of direction, but getting the right, you know, these guys are hitting 3 woods and 5 woods 290. It's hard to hit long clubs just that straight consistently, but I can't wait to see how the USGA sets it up if they're actually going to play it at 290. I suspect that they can't play it that long every day. Wind direction, and especially if it gets firm, nobody will be able to hit the greens. But it looks really cool on TV, and a lot of golf courses that look really cool aren't very fun to play because they're insanely difficult.
You know, I want to ask you about a couple of those things, though, that you just touched upon, and that is I made reference earlier. You talked about the rough, and I read the article where it's Bermuda grass, which is the rough off of the fairways. First time in a U.S. Open since 2005. What does that mean? Not to the common schlep like me, but for a pro trying to go there and compete and win. What does that mean?
You know, that's a great question because where we live in northern Kentucky, greater Cincinnati, we don't have Bermuda grass. So a lot of people who live around here don't know what that means. You know, if they've traveled south to Georgia, Florida, you know, out west in some places, Bermuda grass is it's basically a weed. But there's not much structure to that grass, meaning the ball falls to the bottom of it. There's no support, you know, so to speak, the stalk and
it doesn't prop it up. Right. It does, like sun. Right.
Yeah. Yes. Thanks I was trying to describe that. It doesn't prop it up, so it sinks right to the bottom. Well, if you get Bermuda grass that's over 2 inches long, and I think it's 3 to 4 out there, it falls straight to the bottom of it. And it's like sitting in the bottom of like a grown over bird's nest. And you don't even see the whole ball down there. You see like that it's just a golf ball, but you don't see, you can't figure out where the bottom is, like meaning underneath the ball as easily. So contact is tough, but there's so much grass then when you hit it that gets between your ball and the club that you don't have spin control. It's a guess. So you play it kind of like a bunker shot. And sometimes it comes out fluffy and dead. Sometimes it comes out fast and hot. So you have to be really good at reading the lie and just kind of guessing. It's like hitting out of a pile of shoestrings. You know, sometimes that's kind of the sound and the feel of it. And it's unpredictable and it's insanely penalizing. So, you know, the grass we have around here, it's more predictable. The bluegrass, what have you, or, you know, bent grass that we play in, the ball, there's way more structure to it. The ball doesn't sink straight to the bottom of it, and it's clumpy more than it is like that bird's nest feel. So it's just a tough animal, and they have that off the fairways, which is, you're going to see a lot of guys when they miss fairways hit shots, and if they have the tracer on it, they look like they just go out and nosedive because there's no spin on the ball. It's so unpredictable, and then it turns into what happens to the ball on the ground. And I guess at LACC, with it firm and fast the way it is, it'll just run all over the place. So it's going to have a vibe of links golf that you see in the British Open, as well as forced carries where you know, bunkers in front where you got to land the ball on the green and have it stop. So I think it's going to be great viewing. I think it's going to be stressful for the guys playing it.
You know, I can't remember what the tournament was recently. And, I mean, look, Scheffler, the guy is just unbelievable. And you pointed out, talking about how well you have to putt it in these tournaments week in and week out and how that can save you. And there was an article written yesterday where Tiger Woods commenting about Scheffler, you know, he never lets a 71 turn into a 75. He doesn't let a 72 turn into a 78, right? Which once that happens, you're done, especially in a major. But, you know, I can't remember the tournament recently, and they had a shot of Scheffler out on the putting green, practice putting green, And I mean, he is going off on something. And I don't know if it was somebody on something with himself about his putting. You've got a grin on your face. You've obviously been in his shoes before. What's going on there? For those of us that are sitting there watching it, he wouldn't talk about it once he was asked about it, nor should he. But what's going on there?
Well, knowing Scotty, I've only met him once personally, but knowing the type of guy that I believe he is, he grew up across the street from my friend Harrison Frazier, who plays on our tour now, and he was one of my best buddies playing the PGA Tour. He plays the Champions Tour now, but he knows Scotty. Scotty was like that young kid on the putting green when Harrison was playing, who was like, that kid's good. Like, and he said he's always been the guy who putted fantastic and hold out with wedges from bunkers and chips in. You know, he's just got one of those fantastic short games. So Scotty putting poorly is relative. He's usually better than everyone, but lately, as you said, his strokes gained, ball striking stats have been off the charts good. That's why he doesn't turn the 71 into a 75 or 8, because he's hitting it so well. But normally, as good as he putts, he would shoot 64. So when he's on the putting green frustrated, I think it was at Augusta that you might have been talking
I think
about.
You're right.
That.
Yep.
That putting green right next to the practice range. And he's frustrated by either one or two things: that his setup feels bad and it just feels like too contrived or uncomfortable, or he's just not starting the ball on line, or his speed's bad, which is a combination of the two. But a guy like that doesn't like to have thoughts, because when you're naturally that good a putter, you probably aren't thinking a whole lot about your stroke. You are literally just focusing on, like a free throw shooter, you're focusing on the rim. He's focusing on the line or the hole, getting the ball started on line. He's not thinking about technique. Brad Faxon, Ben Crenshaw, guys who are that great of putters aren't mechanical guys. They're feel guys. So Scotty is probably caught in between, I got to figure this out, but I don't want to have to think about it when I'm over it. And that's the frustration, because what makes him a great putter is that he just uses his eyes and his feel to just get the ball rolling. What he doesn't want to think before he takes it back, okay, I've either got to keep my weight more on my left foot, or I got to feel like I'm holding the putter more square going through, or as opposed to letting it open and close. That's toxic to a guy like him, because he doesn't want it to be mechanical. He wants it to be point and shoot. Throw me the ball, I want to shoot it. And the thing I don't like is, and this is part of the media, that's all the media is asking him right now. What's wrong with your putting? What's wrong with your putting? So now, I don't care how good or how mentally strong you are, you know, it's like asking a guy, what's wrong with your shot in basketball? Mm-hmm. You know, it's hard to put that out of your head. You know, now he's like, well, everybody knows I'm not putting well, so he's thinking about it. Versus before, he probably was the only one who noticed or felt that he wasn't putting well. So now it's become more, you know, everybody on Golf Channel I watch, what's wrong with Scotty Scheffler's putting? I'm like, oh my God, give the guy a break. I mean, you know, but that's the world you live in. You know, I mean, it's part of it. You live in the bubble of professional golf. But he's caught up in, I know I'm getting long-winded, but he's caught up in the mechanics of it and fighting that, because he doesn't want that. He just wants to start making putts again. That's really all and he probably, you know, is spending hours on the putting green. And sometimes when I'm putting poorly, I go up in the evening, 7 o'clock, 7:30, and I just putt with one ball around the putting green. And I don't make it mechanical. I just want to get my feel back. It's like a guy shooting alone in the gym. Nobody around, nobody to bother me. Just let me figure it out. Just kind of, some of that time on your own is the most valuable practice time ever. And that's, you know, you miss that sometimes because you feel like you can only practice on somebody else's schedule and do, you know, you got to practice during the day when a lot of times you want everybody to be gone. That's why Tiger Woods played his practice rounds at 6 in the morning. He wanted to get there before everybody and all the distractions. Hell, he would beat, you know, the people in the locker room to the course sometimes. He just wanted to get his work done and be out of there by 10, 11 in the morning and go do his workouts and whatnot. And I suspect with Scotty out there during the day and the millions of cameras around and whatever, it just focuses more on what's wrong with this game, and it's hard to really put that out of your mind sometimes.
The last thing I wanted to ask you about, I read a lengthy article yesterday, and I can't remember who wrote it, about now the government getting involved and taking a look from an antitrust standpoint with this Live PGA World Tour, everybody coming together, and the news we were talking about, we had you a couple of weeks ago. There are a lot of people, according to this article, that very much believe and said they had sources inside that the PGA Tour financially was facing some big trouble. And they took the Saudi money because of those challenges. Now, all of a sudden, there are many that believe that Congress is going to step in because they've already asked, hey, we're going to take a look at this. And they're saying, many believe they're going to say not so fast. And there are already players on the Live Tour that are commenting saying, hey, look, I don't know what's going to happen, but Liv's going to come out the winner on this deal. What are you hearing about all this?
The same thing you're hearing. Even I'm watching yesterday some of the live from coverage about the U.S. Open, and Justin Rose, big players said they don't know anything, which is it's shocking to me that a merger of this magnitude could be announced with so few details. The guys who had Live offers on the table, now they say they're going to get reparations basically for refusing and staying loyal. I'm like, well, where's that money coming from? Now I just read an article today that says that Live is set aside like a reparations fund for those guys they've offered. That I'm like, this is so messy, Thom, that the commissioner of the PGA Tour had a medical condition yesterday where now he stepped. I mean, I can't imagine the stress that he's under trying to get this to work out right. But, not that it's a conspiracy theory, but the DOJ, who I guess is now, was involved with the antitrust lawsuits and stuff with this, the word we hear is that, yes, the tour had already had $50 million in money they've spent on this lawsuit with the Live. That's a lot of dough. And really, I don't know if there was an end in sight. So naturally, I think the PGA Tour is trying to make this end. Who really knows with Saudi Arabia what their involvement is with our country? Whether, I'm sure we have deals with China, we have deals with Taiwan, everywhere. I'm sure we have some sort of financial deals with Saudi Arabia. I'm not so sure the DOJ wants to disclose the findings of opening their books either. So the suspected reason for this merger from a lot of the players and some of the tour staff is that they were basically told, you guys need to figure this golf feud out, because we know the PGA Tour don't want to open up their books for antitrust. We know Saudi Arabia and the U.S. don't want to open up the books about what's going on there. Figure this out. Well, then we think, this was going on for a couple months. The negotiations between our commissioner and Yasser Al-Rumayyan, the head of the fund, they got scooped. And I don't remember if I mentioned this on the show a couple weeks ago with you, but so they didn't want this to leak out. They wanted to get ahead of it, release it. And that's really, honestly, Thom, other than that, nobody knows any details. I saw where a couple of the Democrats in Washington want this investigated. Is it Blumenthal and Elizabeth Warren want this investigated? Well, that has to happen anyway. I don't know if it's, the DOJ or somebody has to